If you don't have the background, like identify like what are the transferable skills that you have that could lead to success or what helps you stand out.
So thank
In
you so much, Fabiola, for your time today. I really, really appreciate
yeah,
it. Can
awesome.
you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, well, thanks, Young. Obviously, really excited to be part of the conversation. So, thanks for the opportunity. Well, my name is Fabiola. Most people actually do call me Fab, so feel free if you want to call me Fab. That's totally fine with me. Um, I've been with Microsoft for actually today marks my 3 year anniversary.
Oh, wow.
So,
Congrats.
yeah, thank you. I mean, it
Yeah.
like flew by. So, just incredible. Uh, for me, what I think is what's been kind of like my experience so far is deciding to go to UNC was something that I don't know if I ever really had planned to go to business
Uh-huh.
school, but I had my master's in social work
Uh-huh.
from like 2011, and I spent 7 years as a licensed social worker in New York City.
Oh, wow.
So deciding to go to business school was kind of unique.
Yeah.
I thought I didn't know many other social workers that had maybe taken that path, um, but it was I here I am well I guess it's been like 5 years since I started, but really excited to have made that leap or that pivot, I guess, because that was
Yeah.
a wide pivot. But anyway, so like for me, just always been like people oriented. I love the aspect of like understanding human behavior or what makes people like tick or the decisions that they make. So what brought me to Microsoft is the sales role. And
Uh-huh.
I think I still get the ability to kind of leverage a lot of those social work skills because
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot of the relationship that you are kind of like required to build like that
Of
trusting
course.
advisor kind of perspective. So anyway, in a nutshell, I guess I'm Fab. I have a little bit of the business minded side over here, and then also like a bleeding heart. I
Yeah.
love people and trying to be the like trying to be like a supportive resource. So that's
Yeah.
that's kind of me, I guess.
So why did you think about that pivot?
I think for me, I felt like I wanted to understand like how to be an executive. Like, what does it take to be like a strong leader?
Uh-huh.
How do you motivate folks to kind of like reach their potential?
Yeah.
What I always found a little bit frustrating about being a social worker is that here we are in this helping profession. And sometimes, because of the way the systems are established, we're not able to meet those objectives because there are all these other um, like missing operational processes. Like, you need to think through what is the goal in mind
Yeah.
and how do you achieve
Work
that.
better.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
for me, I felt like, okay, well, I have the experience of doing the work, but I don't have much leadership experience. I don't know what it means to like, I don't know, balance like an income statement and all
Yep.
the things that like I guess an executive would be responsible for. Anyway, I said a lot, but that was kind of it. It was just like thinking
Yeah.
through what's my next step? Like I want to be like an effective leader. So
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you want to get an MBA, but I think that's, mostly what it is. You wanna learn what it takes to be a leader, and like you want to learn,
yeah,
and you want that experience. So I guess that kind of
yeah,
is the same
exactly.
same bucket. Um, Tell me about your process of getting into the company. Like, did you like
Yeah.
from the application process to the interview process, and yeah, all those good stuff? Did you have a referral, like, all
Yeah.
those kind of good stuff?
Well, what was interesting is my internship was not at Microsoft. And sometimes folks will ask, like, oh, did you intern? I'm like, no, I didn't. So when I came in the start of second year, I ended up going to the company presentation, like on
Hmm.
campus. From there, I connected with the alums that came to kind of like present on that. So that was kind of like, I guess, my first real intro. then I had plans to go to the National Black MBA conference that fall as well. And speaking to the alums, they were like, oh, when you go, make sure you stop at the Microsoft booth, talk to someone. Sometimes they'll do interviews during the conference. You never know. I think I had applied. You can apply ahead of time. So I did all the stuff. And then having spoken to Adiola and the alums that, came on campus, I had like a general sense of this would be helpful. So long story short, I go to the National Black Conference. I mean, there's like 100 people in line. And when I tell folks this story, I think for some it may seem like an unsatisfying experience because it just all happened. I felt like it was very serendipitous, I swear to you. I just happened to be standing talking to a friend. I was like, I have to come back later. This line looks like it's going to take at least an hour to get through. So I was just chatting with a classmate. And someone came by from the booth and was like, anyone interested in sales? Anyone? Like he was just calling out to the crowd. No one said a word. I was like, well, what are you guys in line for? I've never marketing, product engineering, things like. Long story short, I mean, I felt bad because I wasn't really in line, but I said, sure, why not? I go, I show my resume, give him, my elevator pitch and all that jazz and what I knew about Microsoft. And he, he's like, okay, great, wonderful, awesome. Okay, cool. And I mean, that was it. So I left and then I said, bye to my friend who was still waiting in line. And maybe an hour later, I get an email from the recruiter, like, hey, we got your resume. Would you be willing to come in tomorrow to interview? And I was like,
I'm not ready.
I'm not ready. I had no, it was like, I go into my interview the next day. And I mean, I go in, I present, I had the one round and I say maybe a week or two later, the recruiter had reached out hey, we want to advance you into the final rounds. Here are the steps, pick the location and the role. And I was like, oh my God, I did it. And I remember flying out to Chicago because they ask you what office, because it's sales, they're it's all regional. So I say Chicago. I fly all the way. This is December, I want to say. I fly to Chicago. I do I guess it was a super day or something like that. Yeah. And 3 rounds of interviews for an hour or two. The recruiter reached out to me and basically said, hey, what do you think about being part of this other region? The day that you interviewed, there were 2 teams there. There was one team from Chicago and there was this other team based out of Detroit. I guess they may have passed my resume over to this other group.
Yeah.
And the rest is kind of history. The recruiter, I was like, yeah, absolutely. I whatever, exactly, and I knew I really wanted to work at Microsoft. At the, 2-3 months had gone by. So that's what it is. And the rest is, I had a phone interview with that other, a GM from that other team. And maybe a couple of days later, they called and said, I got the offer. Awesome. And I was like, wow. I mean, it was incredible. Yeah, so
that feeling.
That was a long way to get to that, but
yeah,
it was obviously awesome.
So on your LinkedIn profile, it says you're a senior Azure Specialist. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Talk about sure. So the way Microsoft Sales is kind of set up, I work in our enterprise commercial unit. So all of my customers are already pre-established. They're existing Microsoft customers. At the account team level, you'll have your account manager, we call them account executives, and then each solution area has a specialist. So for me, I'm part of our cloud solution area as an Azure specialist. So what that kind of means is I have a set of accounts that are either new to the cloud, and some organizations are either They still continue to do a lot of their IT processes like on premises. They've got servers and everything like that. What my role is to try and help either enable customers to build their kind of like maturity on our cloud platform. So what does that look like? I spent a lot of time connecting with different members of the IT teams at these customers. I also speak to folks on the business side and various aspects of, the organization. And what I do is either understand what are some of the challenges that they might be experiencing, what are either goals, priorities that they have planned, for the future. And my role is to be someone who can siphon and take in all that information and be able to create somewhat of like a plan to get them to that future state, leveraging hopefully some of the services within Azure. So I do spend a lot of time just building those relationships, understanding the dynamics, providing resources, whether it's technical resources or helping them understand, well, this is what the cloud does and how it operates and maybe how it differs from the way you presently do either your IT operations. So just look at that skilling, the education, bringing in the various resources. Every day is super different for me. And I just spend that time in that specific solution area focused on increasing customer kind of engagement with that.
What do you like most about your role? And what do you like maybe least about your role as well?
I think what I enjoy the most about my role is feeling as though I'm really trying to empower my customers. A lot of times, especially, there are moments where I'm supposed to be a little more proactive in either prospecting and identifying new opportunities to help a customer or to present some solution that may be of value to them. But I think what's really cool is sometimes customers reach out to us and say, hey, like we're trying to do this, but we've been, kind of going about it this particular way. We're curious what Microsoft's perspective is on X. So for me, what I think is pretty cool is that we have the ability to kind of bring in all of the resources that Microsoft has to bear to kind of show the customer and demonstrate what's the art of the possible, like what they could potentially be able to accomplish with the different technology. And this is how Microsoft went about its own cloud journey. I think that's pretty cool. So for me, it's the ability to like kind of work with the customer and kind of like see them progress us into this like future state. So, and it kind of goes back into like that social work aspect of what I used to do. It's like, you're trying to work with the client to get them, on their path. And so I enjoy that part of it. My least favorite part about what my role, because Azure isn't necessarily, it's not something I can like take off the shelf and say, hey, here are the benefits of it's obviously it's like a service. So I'm selling a platform that has like hundreds of services that you can plug and play to meet. So at times it can feel very much like, wait, what am I doing? So it's like the ambiguity that comes with the role that can sometimes feel a little bit challenging because every customer is going to have a completely different perspective. And there's usually like a path of least resistance, but it doesn't always, where it's not methodical in every sense. So it can feel, obviously for some, I mean, they're like, oh, I love it. Cause it's like, who knows? It's like, let's get creative and do, but for me, I think there are times where I would love, like I come in, I can kind of predict to some extent, like what it is that I'm doing today. And then at the end of the day, I can close the computer and say, cool, mission accomplished. And that doesn't always happen. It's like this ongoing, like, I feel like I'm on a Ferris wheel anyway. So anyway, I hope that makes sense.
That makes total sense. And
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think it's because you are in a sales role. I think it's the nature of
It's just business. Yeah.
yeah, tech itself, because I feel the same way too. Like I never feel like everything is perfectly aligned. Advice for those who want to, break into tech sales without any
Mhm.
experience.
Got it. So I'll give my advice and I think what works, but obviously
Yeah,
I'm just one gal here, but you're asking me, so it's totally fine, right?
exactly. Yeah,
So for me, I ended up taking the sales course at UNC, and I think that actually gave me my first kind of exposure to what like enterprise sales or kind of like advisory consultative sales, what that looks like. So one of my favorite courses. So if that's still available, I would definitely take advantage of it because it was a great kind of lead in to
spin.
what sales is. So spin trade, all of that. Like I think like my book is up there somewhere in case of like what is like S. Yeah. So that would be one. Two, if you don't have the background, like identify like what are the transferable skills that you have that could lead to success or what helps you stand out in these roles. I think the direction that Microsoft has been taking is maybe we don't have to find the individual with the 30 years of sales experience. If we bring in, a different kind of perspective. We're all about diversity of thought, how like what might that look like? Bringing in like a sales force that probably has like a different skill set. So for me, in all of my interviews, I honed in on like my social work background. I talked about like working with difficult clients, helping through like empathy. So like all of the skills that maybe someone else might not have those strengths, or it could be like an opportunity area. But for me, that's where I felt like that was my greatest asset. So I
Mhm.
spent a lot of time understanding that and how it applies to the role of tech sales. So I think it's first the training,
Yeah,
or understanding what it is. And then on top of that, what kind of differentiates you? What's your value
makes
proposition
sense.
and
Yeah,
based on your skills? Yeah.
yeah, that makes total
Yeah. So
sense.
that'd be that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Fab, that was all the questions I had. Thank you so much for your time today. Really, really appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Thank you. No,
Yeah.
thank you. This was great. Obviously, I any opportunity to talk about Microsoft for me is great. I really do feel like I hit the like career jackpot. Like it's kind of strange, but at the same time, no, I think this is great what you're doing. So really
Thank you.
excited that I had the
Yeah,
chance to kind of talk.
of course. Yeah.
So.
Thank you.